I'm very pleased that he's going to present to us, and then he's going to ask us to work on something in our tables, and so I'm up here to facilitate that.
Greetings to all of you, and let me first thank Dr. Leslie William and also David for the golden opportunity for meeting an independent evaluation specialist who has got a wealth of result-based knowledge over a period of time, 2.5 years, decades of banking experience, and a decade experience of M&E of evaluating the microfinance area. But now a stage has come to conclude both the bank's experience and the evaluation of microfinance, both the economics as well as the credit could not do tangible benefit to the society, except every time the whole thing is creating, widening the inequality, and the poverty remains poverty there. So probably over a period of time, this has forced me to do something on a routine, a log frame. Why not you go based on the experience, the knowledge we gained, why not to do something trial-based, a result-based, a new log framework to do, to bring a sustainable change or sustainable outcome. That is the starting point for this paper. This is purely an experimental one with the help of Dr. Leslie William. I am presenting it. It is more for actually originally we wanted to have more dialogue session, but still it's a concept since the group is very much diverse. So it's better to introduce certain concepts involved. Then we will have more dialogue to further improvise the whole methodology so that it could be applicable for universal application. We are planning for that. Yeah, thank you. Then, actually, I would like to start with a small anecdote so that get relaxed how the M&E is involved. See, a child, he broke a street light. Breaking a street light is a crime in that country. So he was taken into task. He was taken to the magistrate court. Since he's a child, his mother also accompanied. So the inquiry went on. Then finally the magistrate told, addressing the mother, it has been proved. The crime was proved. Since the child is 5 years old, I cannot put him in the jail. So why not to put him in Sunday school? Sunday school, the do's and don'ts and the moral and ethical stories are there. Then immediately came the reply from mother, my lord, the whole incident happened while the boy was returning from the Sunday school. See, that's the whole story. Now the M&E, how to evaluate, where to evaluate. These are all the area this small message is giving them. Now let me go to the first side of it. Actually, the whole focus, we are trying to focus on the integrated approach. The anatomy of the whole process of intervention, not the end part of evaluation, of monitoring and evaluation. Whole process of intervention are not confined to input-output causal relationship from the economic perspective alone. That is the first point which I want to focus in the integrated approach. The second, the integrated evaluative criteria for equivalent input and equivalent outcome. That is also we are trying to develop on that. The third is the creation of a new climate for readiness for the change, both in the supply and demand side. I think yesterday Saxena was mentioning that. Maintain the evaluation is more on the supply front, on the institutional side, only the input side. We do not know what is happening on the demand side. So how to create a new climate new climate for readiness for the change, both in the supply and demand side of the intervention. Then the other one, the effectiveness in the M&E for bringing a sustainable positive change in the outcome of the client. See, that is more focused in the I am trying to develop in the model.
Can I just capture those key words so that I can leave them up here and you can carry on? I can press the button?
Yeah.
Let me press the button.
Here, in the process of trying to establish an integrated approach, we are starting from the planning stage itself. The planning stage itself, the input assessment is very, very important. That is how to evaluate the equivalence between the input and the needed activity in tune with the expected outcome. See here, the three components are the input and the activity needed for working on the input in relation with the desired outcome. So all the things we have to evaluate with the three criteria, the three integrated criteria of what I am going to later explain on that. Similarly, the whole exercise is how to create a balanced, equivalent input on the input side, and also try to establish taking the result of the input in a balanced manner so that we can ensure the desired outcome at the output. This is what I am trying to establish in this through the integrated evaluated criteria. Here here this is the framework. I think this is I need lot of explanation of that. Here I am trying to develop for the microfinance. Here, before I am going to in detail of that, let me explain certain conceptual framework on the microfinance. There is since the group is diverse, I am better to confine. Actually, it's a larger. It requires a lot of time to discuss. But anyhow, the major difference which is disturbing the monitoring and the evaluation, the M&E angle is microfinance is different from microcredit. Many of the literature making a blunder, making a mistake that whenever they say microcredit, it's not necessarily a microfinance. Microfinance is a package of financial services like micro-saving, micro-insurance, microcredit, micro-pensions, and transfer services, all confining to the poor people. So I think in this small distinction, most of the M&E or MIS, they simply take microfinance, but what is actually they are referring only to the micro. But unfortunately, microcredit alone is not sufficient for bringing the outcome. That's what I am trying to develop on that. Mere microcredit, if mere microcredit alone is able to bring the desired outcome, overnight the World Bank can technologically, simply they can, trillions of dollars they can send to every part of India, let's say poverty can get it. I think it's not possible. Is it possible? So, the microcredit, there is a functionality, there is a working of the input, the microcredit. It involves large number of activity and it involves a large number of assumptions. That is where the microfinance area, there is a very poor monitoring system, evaluation system, misleading because the concept itself is not made very clear. Whenever they said microcredit, they said this is microfinance. It is not so. Again, the microcredit alone is not enough for our situation. Here, what I am trying to develop is the microcredit in the input side. What it is expected to do, it should income generation should be there. When the income generation, that means when the income generation cannot be by default. It requires some activity. So, but here what is that? When the microcredit is delivered, everything is assumed. Everything, there is an income in generation, is that poverty is eliminated. Too much of assumption, this is what I wanted to insist, too much of assumption on the demand side that income generation is taken by default. That is the whole problem here. So, what I am trying to establish in the M&E perspective, there is totally unequal inputs, expecting a different total output of poverty eradication. So, if this is again, this is a demand side, then the outcome actually, too much of assumption, then outcome actually when we see that, when the microcredit is so many crores of rupees they are deployed, every statistics is there. But what is the outcome mapping? Is that the outcome mapping in the demand side for poverty should have been eliminated. At least the poverty should have come above the poverty line. But that is not there. But otherwise, what has happened? More over-indebtedness is there. More the debt stress is there. Then why there is a suicide in some cases? Even this worst case, even there are in India, in AP, in Andhra Pradesh particularly, there are cases of the high debt trust. They are driven to the even committing suicide. I think this is not expected from the microcredit. This is not the means. Yesterday, Dr. Harold was also telling the means to end. So these are all the means, not to the end. It should be poverty elevation, not the other side of the service. So the service like.
Could I sum up, Doctor? Excuse me, because if we want to keep people supporting us to help develop an integrated approach, can I just sum up every now and again, and then we can move on to the next slide. That would be really good. So tell me, have I got the key points? Have I got your key points here? If I just read them for you. We're working towards, and we would like your help to develop an integrated approach to M&E. And this is a presentation on concept development, and the key concepts are we need a more balanced approach to the inputs and the outputs, maybe the process of how we do this, and we need to consider ethical elements as well as those other social factors. Yeah. And currently we have an unequal and inappropriate balance often of outputs and outcomes and supply and demand, and so we don't get what our goals and objectives are. Does that sum up where we're at so far? Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt. So I will just keep adding up the concepts, and then we'll work on what we think is an integrated approach.
Yeah, actually, the whole dimension, what I am trying to expect from the economic perspective, there is some social and ethical dimension need to be incorporated. That is, the social dimension already in the previous slide. Here, the influence of human behavior over input administration. Because when we expect something from the input in the form of output, how the input is being managed at a household level. I think this is very interesting. One thing I wanted to share. When the finance is given with all the systematic procedure, with all the discipline and everything, what is happening at the household level? Because when I could share one experience of that. See, in the self-help group system, I think it's a major conduit for microfinance in Asia, in India and Bangladesh. Here, there's a meeting I was attending. Then the people are asked, wow, see, we have given microcredit. What are you doing? No, we have all finance for dairy animal, because dairy animal is as income generation. Then the meeting is over. Then I pointed out lady, I'm more interested, can I see your animal? Because you told that microcredit is sanctioned, and then the dairy animal should be there. Then you're okay, you are welcome, sir. Then I accompanied her. In the middle of the road, she stopped. Sir, sorry, I got the microcredit, but I changed my idea to convert it to sheep rearing. Okay, doesn't matter whether it's a dairy or sheep rearing. I don't mind. I'm also belonging to the rural area. Don't worry, I'm not actually tell the fact. Then, okay, I want to see the sheep. Then she took the horse. Then finally, she started crying. Sir, very sorry, sir. I neither got sheep or dairy. See, when I took the money, when I entered the home, my daughter came for delivery. So the whole delivery expenses, everything, I spent. So the money intended for something, money actually happening at the household is totally different, which is missing in the money. Any MIS doesn't produce all this. When the human behavior is more influenced by the household value system, everything is changed. Then what else the outcome mapping will be there? The outcome mapping will be only the debt trust is indebted. Then on the supply side, the recovery is not there. The whole recovery is NPA is there, in banking balance, non-performing asset is there, then recycling is there. So what has happened in 2009 and 10, there is a microfinance crisis is there. The microfinance have started troubling there. This crisis witnessed not only in Africa, not only in Africa and India. There are 7 countries which experienced the microfinance crisis. Morocco, Nigeria, Ghana, India, Pakistan. So the whole industry is paralyzed because indiscriminate financing microcredit alone, assuming that everything is productively used. That is not.
Sorry, in relation to the model, what you just told us is that it's currently much more donor and implementer driven and doesn't consider the changing needs and dynamics of the beneficiary groups.
Yeah, actually, this is the supply side, what I'm trying. The supply side focus more on the one size, just microcredit alone. And everything is taken for granted, but by the time, by over a decade, by the time poverty could have eliminated. By the time at least reduced. But the other way is going on, what is going on is, so number of suicide is there. See, when the paper report says, every half an hour in India there is a suicide is there. Actually, I am not relating to the microfinance, but microfinance is also contributing, is aggravating the problem. Every half an hour, the suicide is there. But this is not the type of outcome mapping we expect from microfinance. It is not for the purpose of the output. This type of output is not for that, because MNE has thoroughly filed in microfinance area, because we are having even development, all the reporting, so much of proposal microfinance and annual microcredit summits are being conducted. Yes, there. What else? This is the one I wanted to focus on.
Write that down. That was brilliant. Let me just write that down.
So
here we are.
Yeah. So actually, the result is, so having gained, because when the income generation, it involves lot of processing. That process I cannot discuss here, because the other actors is more on human perspective. All the process is assumed. When it is assumed, then the failure. What I am trying to do, all the process activities, assumptions, you try to develop in a manner so that you start the whole process activity, right from planning, the knowledge should be dispersed. That's what I don't confine to the monitoring alone. Go to the planning itself, you sit with the institution. Sir, this is the way the problem is there. Why do you go to the end of it? As if the credit is okay, MIS is so many diaries, so many poor people. No, that's the problem. Here what I want to do, the social ethical.
Okay, flip it over. Let's turn it around.
What's the problem in many angles? Every statement we make, so many poor are there, so many poor are. Then, from the social perspective angle, there are so many people in the triangle you could see the poorest, and the poor, there is a capability difference is there. Everybody cannot absorb the credit. There are the poorest family, there are the marginalized family, They don't credit at all. For information, this is what I wanted to try is, the one size fits the formula doesn't fit for the product. They don't require what they require is not there. The whole product development, the product designing is totally a failure. It's more supply oriented. They wanted to do some commercial financing, just like money lender. They do that. So long they get back, they are satisfied. They are happy. But that is the way I wanted to go. What has happened to the demand side? What has happened to the poor people? Increasing the debt may not be their problem. But as a development economist, as a development ethicist, I am worried. Why it is happening there? Why that example I told you, why she is shifting? Because the delivery, the girl delivery is more important for her. So you try to develop a product, taking cognizance of the needs of the poorest people there.
This is what you just said, the capability difference, and this is the area that we tend to do really badly here.
Generally when the monitoring is the poor people, we are missing here. Because unless, what I want to try, unless the identity planning stage, you try to identify at least some percentage for the poorest people. Very as clear as crystal. Otherwise, you cannot product the same, not there. And not only that, the microcredit alone is not necessary here. Here, you need a capability. You need the security, the food security is there, health security is there. You try to identify what exactly they need and try to graduate them. And make the fitness how so that he can productively use the microcredit.
That actually links exactly into your point 2. See your point 2 there on the screen? Sequencing products.
Sequencing the product.
To fit into the pyramid.
Exactly. Sequencing. What is happening? You give the microcredit. The supplier does not know what category even, what demands in there. They are only commercial lending. That is the way the whole job. You try to integrate the social and ethical side. Unless you have some ethical element in the supply side, you cannot consider it. This is what I am trying to develop some model on. The ethical element also, the social element. You identify that. There are models. There are some excellent models in Bangladesh, the BRAC, the Bangladesh Rural Advanced Community. They are focusing only for the poor. BRAC. Yeah. There are many models, of course, I have studied. I am only summarizing. There is a capability difference. Identification is there. Identify actually what they need. And the credit, microcredit should not, no first use of the credit. No first use of the nuclear. Similarly, otherwise, they will simply split it. The poorest people always like it. That is not the real demand. They will definitely, according to their priority, they will split. This is what I am trying to already, the tables are downloaded. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
important, isn't it? This how to do this.
Yeah.
So if there are all these problem areas and we need a more integrated approach, how do we develop the capacity of the poorest and how do we adjust to the needs of the poorest so that we can bring about more change, more positive change?
Positive change, actually only one point I wanted to stress is that when we wanted to include the financial inclusion, through microfinance, they are including all the poor people. Some of the poorest also. But the whole problem, once the inclusion is over, they celebrate, they finish it. But you know what is happening actually, which is not transparent in money. People are dropped out. I think this dropping out concept is even education also. This is also in health sector. But this is all totally ignored in the development process. They are only happy with what is the survivor, what is the people who are working with it. And average in a self-employed, 8% of the people are dropped out who incidentally they happen to be the poorest, except some people are. Then when you dropping out when the inclusion process, when you are loading to the poorest, then poverty cannot be eliminated. See, poverty can be eliminated unless these are all the components of the poverty. These are all the part and parcel of the poverty. Unless the entire thing is already poverty cannot be. The whole problem is the microfinance. Because of this, they are dropped out with the debt press. Neither poverty is eliminated, nor otherwise it is increasing the inequality even in
data is really useful for us to look at. It says not only looking at economic considerations of our beneficiary group, who is the most poor, but also looking at social and ethical audits in particular. You stress the need for ethical audits, isn't that correct? Ethical audits, and how we really need to have moral codes of conduct, and we really need to consider how to reach the very, very bottom of the pyramid, and that's one of the most important things that you want us to do, isn't it? Reach that bottom of the pyramid. And how do we do it? And I know that a lot of people working in the development sector are very, very concerned about that, and a more integrated approach does just that, doesn't it? Could you express or comment on those things?
Yeah, actually here, what I'm trying to introduce, make this difference between the inputs in the intervention process. The input, the health input, the education input, they are all the direct inputs. But microfinance or microcredit is not the direct input. Because microcredit gives multiple options, and that too particularly the poverty section, anything they can spend, that is, we do not know what is happening. If you give at least medicine in the health sector, if you give some education in the education sector, at least definitely it goes for increasing the literacy or in curing. But if you give some few rupees of notes, dollar, Thai, anything you give it, that is to be converted into some input which produces expected income. That means when you give the money, unless the money is converted into dairy, unless the money is converted to ship railing, unless the money is converted into any other activity, and the process of conversion is assumed. There we wanted to focus more on that. This is what I want to say, because the subtle difference between the financial input and other input in the development process.
Could I get you and I to work getting information from the group on this?
Yeah.
So can you ask the group what you would like them to do, and I can facilitate?
Now, actually, the values of integrated approach, evaluation approach, See, what we are trying to do is the reinforcement of equivalent input for equivalent output. Unless some integrated approach, unless beyond the economic law frame, it is not possible. We are limited. The second thing, the appropriate designing. When I say the three type of things, first of all, we are actually maybe the microcredit may work because the capability is there. But when you come to that, it is not the appropriate design. You start with the social welfare program. You give them the food security. You give them health security problem. Then the capability. You try to graduate them and make them, enable them for protecting utility of the microcredit. There are sequencing the product is more important. Unless this is incorporated in the microfinance intervention system, then it will not work. That is where the integrated we are focusing on. The third, the partnering coordination. Whether there's a question is there. Whether the MFI or the institution, financial institution can alone do the job? No. Probably they can, one thing they can do. They can try to integrate the credit with insurance, the credit with savings, the credit with pension. There are many products I have already collected. Because one example I can say, even Uganda Opportunity Limited, there's an NGO, they have developed a product, it is credit life insurance. When the insurance is there, that takes care of the health vulnerability. Mere credit, otherwise the credit will be spent for the health problem. So this type of, either the institution can develop an integrated product or can partnering with the social minded problem so that they can give the value addition to the input. This is what, see, after all, one thing, the health sector or education sector or any other sector, they are all common goal, poverty elimination. When all the people are having a common goal, why not have integrated approach? Why should we have a compartmentalized approach? That's what I want to do. The same cohort of the poor should get all the input together, then only their holistic development is.
We would actually like, we don't have a lot more time left if we are going to get feedback from the group, and I know Dennis and David would like to work on what you're doing. I'm going to get Dr. R and I are going to walk around the room, and we would like to pose 2 questions to you as small groups. We would like to ask you, you can choose to look at 2 questions. How could we or should we develop a more integrated approach to M&E? Because M&E is a rapidly evolving discipline. It's a rapidly evolving area. We're going through rapid change. So how should we develop a more integrated approach to M&E? How should we go about it as a professional area? And what should be included in an integrated approach? And the second question, you might prefer to tackle this one. How do you think M&E will develop and evolve? So ideally and in practicality, what should go into a more integrated and a more appropriate approach to M&E? So I would like to give you about 15 or 20 minutes in your tables to consider this question and ask someone to take notes and then briefly feed back to the group. So just one last time from, as you can see up on the slide on the wall, on the screen, integrated M&E approach. So not just evaluation approach. I would stress, please, an integrated M&E approach. And how should M&E develop and evolve to be really more than just a functional kind of technical tag-on to projects and programs. Any questions? Okay, so I really invite you for the very first time to work in your groups. Kim?
To do with microfinance or in general?
No, in general. Microfinance is the example area, and of course M&E, as Dr. R has pointed out to me on a number of occasions, the models that we use might be sectorally appropriate or inappropriate. So let's just think of a general way of an integrated approach to M&E. Thank you, Kim. Any other questions? So we would like to feed this back to the group and put it on the website and open it up for discussion later on. But would someone choose to be described and take down notes? If you're not quite sure, then I'm going to come around the tables and ask you, what do you think should go in a more appropriate and a more integrated approach to M&E, or how should M&E evolve? How do you think it should evolve in the next 10 years? Thank you.